Hello again, and welcome back to Viewpoints on the Line. The next issue that we're talking about now, we're talking about the media coverage of the crisis in the Middle East. What do you think about it? Do you think it's been biased, one side over the other? Do you think it's loaded with propaganda, for instance? The article that we have here, it's entitled The CNN Strategy. Now, interestingly enough, and this article is talking about this. It was published in the National Post that Hamas itself called it the CNN strategy. And what this article is referring to is, for instance, the numbers that you're hearing, and I'm quoting this article here about the number of women and children getting killed in the Palestinian territory as a result, well, in the Gaza, as a result of what Hamas has been doing and hiding behind these human shields. They're saying that those numbers are also including children that are part of the actual war effort, young soldiers and women that are also terrorists, according to this article, so the numbers are inflated. They're also saying that the pictures that you're seeing are also being used for propaganda, and from the other side point of view, we don't see pictures of the Israelis getting killed. The reason why is the Jews they don't show their dead. It's part of their culture and their religion. The dead is usually buried within 24 hours of death, so you're not going to see media images of the dead in Israel. Do you think it's been biased? I'd like to hear what the two of you think, because to be honest with you, in certain media outlets, you might expect more of a bias than you're actually seeing, to be honest. So I'd like to hear what the two of you have to say about this. Do you think it has been? Let's start with you on this one, Paul.
Yeah, I think it is. And I know that Dershowitz, in the one article we were looking at, he's pointing out boy, is he ever being politically correct, but in a nice way. He's trying not to come out and say it. But what he's saying is that the whole world tolerates this kind of one-sidedness. It tolerates and even encourages this idea that look at the poor Palestinian child, and they never expect to see the dead in Israel. They never expect to see the dead that were caused by Hamas within their own territory, for example, friendly fire and etc. And I think what he's getting at, without coming right out and saying it, because maybe he thinks it's self-serving, I don't think it would be, is that I think what this whole conflict reveals worldwide is that a disgraceful fact that far too many of us, outside of the Middle East included, especially, have this latent anti-Semitism, this hatred of Jews, and it's therefore much easier to pin the tail on the Jews and say that they're the problem makers here, because no one goes any further than how much they dislike Jewish people. I think it's disgraceful, and it ties in. It ties in with this whole idea of Western values in Israel, because what are Western values? They're trade and free trade and capitalism. And who gets blamed for what capitalism and banking? Well, everyone just talks about, Shakespeare's Shylock money trader, and it's the whole idea of money and Jewish and banking and capitalism gets wrapped up in this emotional, anti-Western, anti-capitalist, anti-Israel feeling. And it becomes possible at that point to hate Jews for anything. Just give people an excuse to blame Israel and they'll do it. We're also
sickened, though, in the West, and this comes out in this article, we're sickened in the West by seeing children dead, and that gets played up. And that's one thing that this article addresses too. This is just not something that we're accustomed to, thankfully.
Yes, well, I totally disagree with Paul here, and I guess I have the freedom to do so.
First
of all, Paul, when you use cliched terms like Western values, etc., you have to understand the West is no longer just a Judeo-Christian situation. I mean, there are as many, if not more, Muslims living in the West now than there are Jews. So, that certainly doesn't apply in terms of Western values just being the values of one people. Secondly, media has always been biased before and after this crisis. I mean, whoever thought that media was objective? And I say this sort of straddling both places, as the public and as media myself. There is always a bias. If I present something, there is a bias. Let's not forget and go back not too far that when the Americans were in Iraq, the only images that you saw more and more was of the Americans there. So whoever is presenting, and CNN especially, gives not the complete picture. And therefore, the best way I have found to understand what's happening in a crisis is to go across the board. CNN, CBC, BBC, and then, of course, Al Jazeera has its own agenda and its own bias. So the biases are there. But that doesn't stop us today with the internet. I mean, I have been in correspondence with an organization called Physicians for Human Rights in Gaza, and they're giving me statistics, not pictures of the dead, but statistics of what the medical situation is, of, you know, the lack of ambulances, what they need, what is happening to the wounded people that they're taking. That's not propaganda. That's not a bias. That is a reality. And majorly, journalists haven't been allowed in Gaza. So what is being presented and said is everyone's own opinion. So I would say, yes, there is a bias, but there is a bias on both sides. And dead children are dead children, and it is a terrible thing to see. It doesn't matter whose dead child it is. It is always something very terrible to see, anyone who's dead and dying. So we need to feel that compassion. How else are we going to be able to deal with this situation? How else are we going to bring out the human
I agree
in
with
us?
you there. We need to feel the compassion.
Yes.
But we only see one side. And I'm not against the reality of it, because it's a sickening, sad thing when children are dying. But when people are only seeing one side and they're not seeing the dead on the other side, that influences people. We want to hear your thoughts. We'll get to you after the break. Stay tuned. Hello again, and welcome back to Viewpoints on the Line. Let's go now to you, Paramajit, on line 6. Hello, you're on the line.
Yes, miss. Thank you very much for that. I just wish to make three comments, and very shortly.
Please make it short.
Yeah, and in the first place is about this media coverage of the Gaza the problem. We have never seen what is the effect of these rockets which go into the Israeli territory. It's never described. It's never seen. And yet, CNN and all those, big names, they show all this stuff, what's happening in Palestine. It is absolutely one-sided display.
Paramajit, thanks for calling in and sharing your view. Let's go now to Grace on line 7. Hi, Grace. You're on the line.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Grace.
Yeah, that we're seeing between Palestine and Israel is that Hamas is a part of being elected by the Palestinian people, and it is have to be debate each other. You can't be bombing people. You can't go neighbor. They are home. I know Israel people. They are home. These people they are home before Israel. Since Noah been over there, and then they have to use the 10 Commandments, live one another, and the children of Palestine even they can't throw any.
Grace, we're running out of time. Thanks for calling in. Something very key I want to finish on though, and it's something that you said, Raheel, about. I agree. We're no longer a country that's made up of only Christians and Jews anymore, Judeo-Christian. However, we're founded on the principles and the values enshrined in our Constitution, respecting our democracy, the fathers of Confederacy. This was the foundation of our country, and people like you that come here, like me, all immigrants, everybody who flocked here, had an appreciation and a respect for that. And I know as many peace-loving Muslims and people from other parts of the world that appreciate this. But it's not to say that we don't have a lot of other people, if you just want to answer to that quickly.
Well, of course.
Yes.
I mean, I have been among the people who's always respected the Judeo-Christian foundation of this country. That's why they call me the Merry Muslim. But at the same time, I'm saying if you look at statistics, when people speak of the West, they can't speak of the West in isolation only, because now the West constitutes every ethnicity.
We must end on that note. Thank you both so much for joining me. That's all the time we have. See you again next time. I'm Christine Williams, and from all of us, thank you for watching.